access the podcast of OA. Located deep within Sector 14845 and powered by the Emerald Light of Will, the podcast of OA is your guide to the Green Lantern universe. Hosted by Lantern Myron Rumsey, the podcast of OA begins now.
Hey, Green Lantern fans, welcome to the podcast of OA, episode number 228. I'm your host, Myron Rumsey, and I'm joined by my good friend Phil Bova on the other end. And we're right in the middle of summer, Phil. So I don't know about you, but it's been pretty warm. How on your side of the world?
Low key. Usually like by 4th of July, I'm kind of like, summer's over for me. I'm ready to go back to work,
You're over it then.
Playtime's over. But no, it's been pretty low key. Just doing a lot of activities with Clark. It's been kind of fun.
Cool. That's great. I've been working. I don't get summers off, so I've been just plugging away and taking some long weekends here and there and trying to enjoy the weather. And I'm already gearing up for Halloween. I'm a huge Halloween fan, and I decorate my yard pretty hardcore. And Home Depot came out with their stuff for this year, and so I jumped all in. Went a little crazy. Went a little overboard.
You might need to include insomnia on maybe one of your
right. That'd be cool. Got a 13-foot tall Jack Skellington.
God.
My yard. Yeah. I don't know where I'm going to put him yet, but
I'll tell you what, man, your videos amaze me every year. Every year I look forward to it. I'm like, I got to see what this dude did this year, man.
It's a bad, addictive, costly, expensive hobby. But it's fun. I enjoy it. Seeing the kids.
That's one of two bad, expensive, costly.
Right. But I enjoy it. Seeing the kids come through and the reactions from the kids and their families is a blast. But I will definitely be uploading a video of this year's walkthrough. But anyway, we've got, speaking of Halloween-y scary stuff, we've got Night Terrors to talk about. This episode was a little delayed. As we mentioned in our last episode, we were going to be interviewing Jeremy Adams and Alex Segura. That didn't work out. Their scheduling didn't work out at all. The time that they had available kind of evaporated. And this weekend is San Diego Comic-Con. They're not available. So we decided we don't want to hold off on the content anymore because we're nearly 3/4 of the way through the month of July. So let's just go ahead and we'll talk about our stuff. And if we get a chance to connect back up with Alex and Jeremy, we'll do so if DC can arrange it. If not, that's fine too. I was appreciative of the opportunity to do this, and it was great. They sent us an advanced copy of this first issue, so it was very nice of them to do that, and hopefully things will work out. We'll see how things go from there. But since the last time we talked, there's been a few interesting pieces of Green Lantern related news. Probably the biggest news is that it's been announced that Guy Gardner will be the Green Lantern that is shown in the Superman Legacy movie, and they're casting Nathan Fillion to play Guy Gardner, which is interesting because Nathan has voiced Hal Jordan on a number of occasions, and now he gets to do a live action version of Guy Gardner. I'm not sure what to think about it yet because there's really no information. My first knee-jerk reaction was, gosh, if Nathan Fillion is in his 50s and he's Guy Gardner, how old does that make Hal and John? But we don't know what they're playing for and what they're doing, and just because that's their age range in the comics and that Hal and John should be maybe older, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen in the movies. So until we see something, until we know something, it's really too early to pass judgment.
I'm not going to say anything until it comes,
Right.
Because, fandom's already, when that news hit, man, it's like that proverbial, that hits the fan. And you just knew all the comments were coming with it. I don't know. I think people jump pretty quickly before they're allowed room to breathe. And unfortunately with WB and DC, they got a really big anchor that they're going to have a long time pulling up, because I think that's a lot of people's gut reactions to any kind of content they provide, man. I mean, look at the Flash. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You can't you just whatever.
It's interesting. The latest buzz that they've been saying is that the Flash is going to leave theaters making less money than Green Lantern.
Yeah,
from 2011. And I propose to spin it the other way, that the Green Lantern 2011 movie was more successful than a 2023 Flash movie.
Well, yeah, and
Flip
that's the way
it.
you gotta then that's the way you gotta look at it. But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, they come up with so many comparisons just to draw
Yeah,
more heat to the debate, and it's pointless, right? It's like,
right.
I mean, even like the Flash movie, it was pointless. It was a pointless movie, and then it's time to move on. I mean, it's time to move on. Legacy, and we'll see what happens. And
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion, my hats off to him. At least he gets to finally play the character
Yeah,
real
yeah.
time.
I'm happy for him. He's done a few projects where he's gotten to play roles in the DC and Marvel universes, and he's always had good geek cred, and it's been a long time coming, but it's interesting to see him be able to put the ring on, even though it's not Hal. And I really did feel I didn't want like I feel the same way about Tom Cruise. I think Tom Cruise and Nathan Fillion could have both done a good job with Hal Jordan, but their window of opportunity has passed. I have no interest in seeing old man Hal.
No, I mean, Tom Cruise is what? I mean, he's pushing 60, isn't he?
Yeah, he's about my age.
Gotta be. So I don't know. I mean, I don't, but it depends on what they're going for here. You know what I mean? Like, what are they
Yeah,
going
yeah.
for? If you pick an older I always thought Fillion would be good as like Booster Gold, but you know,
Yeah. I always thought he would be a great Booster Gold.
yeah.
But again, we don't know what they're doing. And with CGI, they can do some things in terms of de-aging you. And until we see footage, until we see something, too early to pass judgment.
Yep, moving on.
Yep, definitely moving on. The McFarlane figure line, they talked about doing a Dread Lantern figure. They've now formally announced an Alan Scott figure, a proper Alan Scott figure. Excited for that. I've already got mine ordered. And you and I, since the last time we did this show, appeared on the World at War Comics podcast. It was interesting because it wasn't talking about specific comics, although we did talk about Night Terrors, but it was more general Green Lantern chat, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, hats off to Tommy, man. Just a nice guy, good fan. I mean, it was just kind of like one of those moments where it would have been like just a round table talk, just everybody
Yeah.
having a good time, cup of coffee, bouncing ideas off each other. And, nobody cares about, like you said, that's middle-aged men sitting around talking about comic books, man.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I thoroughly had a great time. I mean,
Mhm.
I've been doing this show since 2011, and when you're on this side of it and you're making the content,
Yeah.
it's a little different because you're focused on trying to make sure that you've got everything you need and organizing it and keeping the structure. And there was much more relaxed because that's not my problem. That's not my show. You could just talk and have a good time. So it was great to be in that situation for a change.
It was, and it was family friendly.
Yep.
And full disclosure, Tommy did say that Myron could take the gloves off. However, Myron kept restraint and he kept it family friendly the whole time. I don't even think I dropped the curse word here or there.
No, it was a good conversation. So I'll
But
link to that show in the notes here, but definitely check it out. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And the last bit of news. This is something I just read today that in October there's going to be a crossover event with Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
that's crazy.
I don't know if
I
it's a
didn't hear
one shot. I don't know
I
any
didn't
more
hear that at
details about
all.
it. I just somebody took the direct currents, that version of that they have now with all the stuff. Apparently that's out. Either it's out publicly or somebody at a comic shop got it and scanned the pictures, the pages that were promoting it for the solicitations. It's by Brian Buccoletto. I may have completely butchered that. It's probably something different. It's probably Butcholetto or Butcholato. I don't remember, but Mr. B he's done some other work for DC. He's done some Flash. He's done some Batman and so on. But I can't tell. The information doesn't show whether is this a one shot, is it a multi-issue miniseries. It's obviously going to be an Elseworlds type of an event. Just a fun thing. The pictures that I saw, I did see Jessica Cruz, and I couldn't tell whether it was Simon Baz or if it was another Green Lantern in the background because the character was way in the back where the detail was hard to see. So I don't know what version of the Justice League it is. Really, no details yet. Maybe we'll know more when the October solicitations come out.
Hilarious. What an interesting crossover. It's kind of like the Jurassic League,
Right,
it's like these
right.
different mashups they come up with.
Well, it's interesting because there's been a lot of Green Lantern crossovers. I mean, there was a Green Lantern Space Ghost, there was a Green Lantern Huckleberry Hound, there was Green Lantern and the Kelvin universe of Star Trek, there was a Green Lantern Planet of the Apes, and those kind of all lent themselves because there's characters that talk. But seeing a Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong could be really interesting because you're not going to really interacting and talking to these characters. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's either going to be a lot of fun or it's going to be really stupid, one or the way or the other.
But somebody will buy it. I'll buy it just to read it.
I'll buy it because I want to see what it's like.
And I'm a huge Kong fan, so
I'm a huge Godzilla fan. So there we go.
Oh man, when that movie came out, I even went out and bought me a Team Kong shirt.
I have a Team Godzilla shirt. That's crazy.
Go you, man.
Well, when we would talk about the issue, you're gonna have to wear your Team Kong shirt. I'll wear my Team Godzilla shirt.
Done.
But that's really all the news I've seen. There hasn't been much of anything else, although that's plenty of news considering we were just recorded a few weeks ago. So that's cool.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, and any news with Green Lantern is still good news.
That's right. That's right. It's as we were talking about on the World of War Comics podcast, we're kind of in this era where we're starting to get more content, and it feels familiar but strange at the same time. But it's great to get more content and more news, some merchandising that we really hadn't had in a while. So I feel like Green Lantern's on an upswing.
It's a renaissance.
That's right.
There it is.
That's right. All right, well, let's take a quick break because we've got Night Terror's Green Lantern #1 to talk about. And I think we'll break it into 2 segments. We'll do one segment on the Hal Jordan part of the book, and then another segment on the Sinestro part.
That sounds great.
All right, we'll be right back. So stay tuned.
All right, Myron, Night Terrors. Here we go, man. Great issue. When we got the preview, when they sent it before, I was excited because I was really digging the covers that were coming out with the Green Lantern one, and I got a couple at the bookshop I got to pick up. But then they sent this early to us. I was like, okay, cool. And then right after I read it, took me I don't know, I breezed right through it because it was so good. And I was immediately wanting to get all over Twitter and just spread it out. But I was like, I'm going to keep my tongue and, keep it contained. But I'll tell you what, man, it was a great first issue. The best thing they could have done with this, and what I think Adams did well, was Saget from the second issue of Lantern.
Yeah, I thought it dovetailed really nicely. There's always a concern when something like this happens, and especially when the new series has only had 2 issues and you're jumping off and doing a 2-month event, is how do you make it feel organic and not disrupt the flow? And the way that he crafted the Hal Jordan part of the book is it dovetails right in. It picks right up where Green Lantern #2 picked up. This could just as easily have been the 3rd issue of the Green Lantern book.
It could have, and that's really good for DC publications to do that.
Yeah,
sometimes, like you said, sometimes they brag at it, and it's like, well, hold on, that's a little jarring because I don't know where he's at, or I don't know where I'm going here.
Yeah,
right?
And we start right off where issue 2 left off, where something's going on, and Hal is rushing towards the cockpit. So again, very organic. I mean, again, it feels like this is Green Lantern #3, not Night Terror's Green Lantern #1.
But then again, it could be Green Lantern #3 because.
Yeah. Different art team. I mean, it's Eduardo Pensica, which I thought he did a great job in this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the colors are great, and he did a lot of great work on the faces too.
Yeah, and I think going into it, I was always when I heard about this event, I started thinking, well, they're going to go for the low-hanging fruit, right? They're going to do Martin Jordan's funeral. We're going to see Parallax again, and we do get that, but Jeremy Adams' take on it is a little different, and it's fun and adventurous, and it still explores Hal's character. And there's some things in here that I think are done really well. So I didn't have anything negative to say about it, other than maybe a little predictable because you kind of knew what low-hanging fruit they were going to go for. If you're a Hal fan, you already kind of know where they're going to go, but that didn't change the experience at all.
No, and conversely, I think Superman did the same thing, but I didn't really drudge down on it because it was a really well written issue, just like this one was.
Yeah.
So I figured, all right, well, I'm going to give it a chance because it was nuanced in a way, but not the same thing, like you had said. So,
Yeah.
like you said, he picks up, he opens the cockpit, and lo and behold, we have a dead Martin Jordan
Yep. We're back in the
again.
day.
Again.
Yeah, yeah. Again, and what was interesting, I think one of the best single issues about Green Lantern that's been written in the last decade or so was that one shot that Tom King did, the Dark Side War tie-in,
Hmm.
where Hal um, meets himself as a child in these exact same moments, which was I thought was just a fantastic read. And here we get a little bit different version of this, obviously, because Insomnia, just a little bit of a setup, is Insomnia is this new villain, and he's trying to get I can't remember the name of the stone he's looking for. I knew I was going to
Oh, the
forget it.
Nightmare
The
Stone.
Nightmare Stone. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the Nightmare Stone. And so he's kind of set this wave of energy, which is putting everybody to sleep. And he's searching their subconsciouses for this Nightmare Stone because apparently it's been hidden somewhere. And so that's kind of the running theme in all of these books, is that Insomnia is tormenting different heroes trying to find the Nightmare Stone. And so he's trying to break them down. And here Hal relives the funeral of his father. As a child, he gets to see his mother and so on. And a nice touch. We know that, and it hasn't been played up a lot, but Hal's mother was Jewish, and Martin Jordan, Jessica was Jewish, and Martin was Catholic. And so Hal is technically Jewish, but religion's never really been played up a whole lot in the mythos. And I thought it was a nice touch to see the Jewish imagery used, but I thought it was maybe a little heavily used because it was Martin Jordan's funeral. But we don't know the family dynamic, number one. And two, this is Insomnia pulling Hal's memories and making a nightmare out of them. So this is what Hal remembers, not necessarily reality. You know what I mean?
And I wonder how much of that stuff, and I would never get into the place where I'd want to ask a writer that, is if it's writers that put stuff in there like that because that's what they want, or the artists themselves.
Right. Was it in the script, or is this the artist's interpretation? Right.
Right.
You're exactly right. It is interesting because there's a reference to Carol. You see Carol there as a child looking at Hal, and Hal commenting in his mind saying, that she looks sad, and I think she's sad for me. And there's observations about his mother. And then of course, you get the gory Martin Jordan coming out of the coffin bit, which again, predictable but effective.
It was. It scared me. Did that give you any kind of like designs for your upcoming
No.
Halloween festival? No. Okay.
No, not at all. I thought it was interesting though. He talks about how it was a closed casket funeral because of all the burns, and Martin Jordan's body, he's got all of his hair. And so I was like, well, he didn't really carry that part over, but that's okay. Again, it's effective, and you're just trying to instill some fear into Hal. And again, for any Green Lantern, using fear as a weapon against them is always tricky because overcoming fear is their shtick, right?
And it's supposed to be, but this is a younger version of Hal, so
Right. And it's effective. And Hal runs away, and then he's being chased by ghouls, and he runs through a door. And then the next bit is him at Ferris Aircraft and having an interaction with Carol. And it's a replay of Hal's origin. The flight sim goes away. He meets up with Abin Sur. And again, low-hanging fruit. But the difference is, when we've seen this kind of thing before, Abin Sur is telling Hal he's not worthy of the ring. And in this case, Abin Sur is trying to leech off of Hal's life force to keep himself alive, which is a little different.
A little different, right? And that's all it takes, is subtle changes sometimes to make a story unique,
And at the end of the day, even though there might be some retreading of things, was it a fun read? Did you enjoy the book? That's all that really matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting that Hal cuts off his own finger.
Oh,
to get the ring off. Interesting thing. And he again bolts from that and opens a door. And then this, to me, was the most interesting thing, because this is adding another layer. This is building up on the Jeremy Adams run altogether. He's confronted by the Guardians after the events that transpire on Korrigar that lead to the death of a Green Lantern. So this part to me was fascinating because we've talked about before in the show, there's this theory that Chad and I have that Kilowog is dead.
Right.
And when you get to this one, it's like, boy, this to me, whether I'm reading into it or not, I'm not sure, but boy, it feels like I'm getting more information that makes me think that we're right.
Have you texted or contacted Chad to ask him?
No, we haven't compared notes on this particular issue at all.
Because I don't know if I don't even know if they did their reviews or not.
They just did their review of it, just came out. I haven't listened to it yet because, like I said, I don't, because I'm always afraid I'm going to subconsciously parrot something. I want our voices to be unique. So when I listen to their show, I go back and do it after we've already finished covering things. But it was interesting, it's a story in which the Guardians are telling Hal, you done messed up and you can't go back and do things. And what's interesting is they're okay. Hal's fallen for it, like thinking this is reality. And then one of the Guardians says, you betrayed your friends like Lantern Kilowog. And I thought, boy, why would you go out of your way to bring up Kilowog as the only Lantern you bring up? And then that's when Hal starts to say, this isn't right. Well, is it not right? Because Hal's realizing, well, wait a minute, Kilowog's dead. This can't be happening. Kilowog's standing right in front of me. There's no way. And then he says, no, this room, you, Kilowog, who are you? And I'm like, okay. To me, it underscores it. It's subtle enough, but it's seeing Kilowog alive that snaps Hal out of it.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the way I'm interpreting it.
No, I get it. I mean, and that could be something that really, really carries over and plays well in this series with Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
The death of Kilowog. I mean, what more distraught could you be from that?
Right. And it was interesting that Adams could have made this where he actually reveals it, because it could have been the death of Kilowog that is the nightmare, and it's not. It's the scene afterwards, and it's after the Guardians have already disappeared. But of course, Insomnia is playing games.
Right.
But it was interesting to me as I'm reading this. I'm like, gosh, this almost justifies everything we're thinking. This is the next piece of information. It's slowly unfolding, but it seems more and more clear. This is what it is. But of course, because we think this theory, we're seeing in it what we want to see. So we could be so completely off base. We'll have egg on our face by the time this is done. But for right now, in this very moment, I'm like, boy, I'm more positive that's what's going on than I was before.
I hope you're right. I think it'd be kind of cool if you guys are right about it.
And I loved visually when Hal does the "Where are you" bit. The Guardians have that stoic face, and then suddenly one of them goes for this very stoic face to this evil grin.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then things go really dark.
Big dark.
Yeah, big dark. And Insomnia, one of the things I was concerned about is, again, overcoming fear is a Green Lantern's bread and butter. So is Hal reacting the same way as everybody else is? Because I haven't read any of the other books. And Insomnia comes right out and says, I've had to shift your reality so many times to get the perfect fear. And I have to admit, you fared better than other beings on your planet. And that's the way it should be.
Now, I did read the Superman one. I read the Wonder Woman one. I read both of those today. And I think it's playing off pretty much the same kind of way that they're doing with the Hal Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So at least they're keeping with the same theme across the board on how it's going to play out.
Did you see the Flash one?
I haven't seen the Flash one.
So Hal makes an appearance in the Flash one.
Is that when is that one out? Next week?
It came out last week, I think.
It's already
out. Okay. There's a scene where Barry goes to the Watchtower and Hal is there, but it's Hal after he sacrificed himself for Final Night, but he's all burned and messed up. And so they've been kind of hiding him on the satellite because he can't interact with people again. And it was interesting.
That's really cool. I didn't know what number Flash issue was that? Or just
It's
the
not
Night Terrors?
it's Night Terror's Flash #1.
I gotta get that one. I didn't read that one.
But back to this book, Hal ends up fighting insomnia. Uh, and then they open one more door, and then of course it's Parallax, and that leads us to the second issue. And I loved how he ended the issue where you get Hal's monologue, and he's like, I can feel it. It's hunger, it's wanting, and what it wants is me. And then Hal says, come on, then you want me? I'm right here. Come and get me, you know?
Because they've always had that, he's always known that pull with Parallax.
Sure. And it'll be interesting because Hal's kind of defeated Parallax. So where Adams goes with it will be very interesting.
What a great looking image of Parallax too.
Yeah, boy. I looked at that and I was like, man, he's channeling Ethan Van Sciver in this full page spread. Because that looks so much the way that Van Sciver drew Parallax.
Yeah, I like it. It's cool.
It looks really good. Although it does have that serpent-y body. When Van Sciver did it, it was more bug-like. This has got this more serpent body that we saw later on. But yeah, second issue is going to be all Parallax, which as it should be. I mean, that is Hal's, if you subscribe to the whole what happened thing, and you kind of have to because it's canon, that would be his greatest fear. And how he's going to try to manipulate Hal into thinking that Parallax could beat him when he's clearly over Parallax, So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
You got bigger fish to fry than Parallax.
That's right. That's right. He's kind of already mastered Parallax and mastered Necron. So we'll see, because who knows where it's going to go. I really had a good time with this. It gave some character exploration. It still followed along with the event. And I think Adams took this as, well, here's a chance for me to do an interpretation. This is how I perceive Hal would react, and build upon the characterization he's trying to build in the main series.
Mm-hmm. And the main issue is pretty good. I don't know if you read that one or not. The main Night Terrors issue.
The Night Terrors, yeah, it was pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. I wouldn't say this is a huge crossover event, although that's the way it's being marketed. I don't feel like the story's big enough for what they're doing. But if you enjoy the books, that's all that really matters.
No, if you're gonna have a big crossover event, you got to have a really, really big lead up to it.
Yeah.
You got to drop breadcrumbs 6 months, 8 months earlier, and really, really get the engagement. But this one's the low key one, but it's still cool. I'm surprised they didn't do it like more in around October or something.
Well, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, boy, this seems like this would have been the perfect event for Halloween.
Yeah.
But
who are we? Maybe they got something else for Halloween. Maybe Blackest Night 2 is coming out.
Godzilla and Kong.
Godzilla
and Kong. So the back half of the book is really interesting, because other than the 2 panels we saw Sinestro in, we have no clue anything about what's going on with Sinestro. So it's interesting that Alex Segura really gets to write the first Sinestro story since this relaunch of this book, because again, we don't know what happened on Korrigar. We don't know why Sinestro's on Earth. We don't know where his ring is because he doesn't have it. We don't know what's brought him here. Why is he kind of hanging out in the shadows, kind of thing? We don't have a frame of reference going into this story. And when it starts out, it's like, man, he's already a beaten man.
Yes, man.
He's
low slum.
Yeah, I mean, he's walking around trying to hide from things. He doesn't want to engage with anybody. I mean, where's the pompous attitude? Where's the bravado of Sinestro? Something is really broken this man. And I mean, he even says in the beginning, I'm like, as I started reading this, I'm thinking, well, has insomnia already gotten to him? Are we jumping in the middle of his nightmare? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, no, this is where he's at. I mean, he says, my name is Sinestro, and I have a question for you. Have you ever felt lost, felt so broken, so gone that you feared losing yourself completely? I'm like, man, this is, I mean, the bad things hadn't even happened to him yet, and he's already down in the gutters, man.
Could be Sinestro playing it off, though, man.
It's crazy. Well, then, he bumps into somebody and he's all apologetic. I mean, when's the last time Sinestro apologized for anything,
I like how he pulled up his hand thinking he had the ring, too.
Yes, right. I'm like, wow. It's like, this is Sinestro's greatest fear, is to not be relevant. and he's already living. I'm like, man, if this is where he is now, and this is his reality, what's it going to be like when he gets hit with the tidal wave of being knocked out and living through his nightmares? And again, we don't know how he got here, So Alex Segura is doing a lot of heavy lifting. He's setting the stage for what we're going to see with Sinestro. Although my hypothesis is that Segura is going to take him to a different place by the time the story's over with.
I mean, that's what he should. I mean, a lot's been done with Sinestro. I mean, they need to do something key with his character.
Yeah.
So I'd say the last time I think he shined was Sinestro Corps War. I mean, Blackest Night he was good in, and
Yeah,
Brightest Day
really.
some, but I'd say Sinestro Corps War, he was when he at his hardcore.
That was really peak Sinestro.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here again, he takes one on the chin from somebody, this guy he bumps into. And he's like, what's even worse than being mocked and belittled? I'm forgotten. I once ruled planets and star systems. Entire races quaked at the mere sound of my voice. I was the definition of power, of fear, and now I'm nothing. And now I'm afraid. And the visual, you see him like looking at his hand with the blood on it, and he clenches his fist, and then he's like almost ready to cry. It's like, this guy's broke.
You're feeling bad for Sinestro over there, man.
I almost am. I mean, this is not the Sinestro we were used to. This guy, and again, I'm going, man, he's taking the death of Kilowog pretty hard.
They took his money, they got his wallet,
The guy can't even call an Uber. He doesn't even have a cell phone. What's he gonna do?
They took his he's got his cool stash, so he's okay.
And then the wave comes over him. And then it's like that next page of artwork. I'm like, man, that's very Liam Sharp like, with the bodies on the poles and all this stuff. And we're going to Korgar, and I'm like, okay, is this what happened?
It's a very twisted version of Korgar.
Yeah, it's very dark. And then again, so Alex Segura doesn't have as many pages as Jeremy Adams does. So there's a lot of abbreviation and a lot of Reader's Digest version shortcuts getting you through what's going on. But it talks about the loss and the things with Hal and the relationship there, and being I don't know, just being someone who's gone downhill, and it talks about how he became a better version of himself as a result of the dark crisis on the Infinite Earths.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we don't know what happened, but man, Sinestro's been through something.
He has, but I have a feeling he's going to be back. So what's this entity that he's talking to? I don't have any base for this red looking thing with the teeth and the yellow eyes.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
I'm assuming that these are shadows of what has happened on Korgar preceding this. But again, I could be completely wrong because there's no context provided.
Well, then again, it could be his nightmares taking over too.
Sure.
Because who's that Green Lantern? Is that Abin Sur?
Well, yeah, that's supposed to be a version of Abin Sur.
The dead, yeah, the decayed corpse looking one with that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and his head is split open with his brain showing, and it's just very interesting.
That would definitely be a hardcore Halloween Green Lantern.
Oh, that would
cosplay right there.
But what's interesting is that Sinestro then encounters himself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the best version of himself, the pre-Sinestro Corps version of Sinestro he encounters. And even he's like, he's talking about the future Sinestro as, you're my flawed self, a shell of the man you once were, of the man I still am. And that's where I think we're going in that I think Sinestro is going to come out of this 2-part story with his mojo back.
I wonder if he'll come out of it being a hero.
I don't know.
He might get his ring back too.
Yeah, it's because we don't really know what happened to the ring that he had. Mm-hmm. We don't know what happened on Korgar. So again, it's very interesting. This again ties back to the story of the main series. Granted, it's tangential right now, but we know that Sinestro and Hal are on a collision course in the next couple of issues.
It'll be nice to see them together, and it's going to be nice to see what Adams does with it.
And I think it's really cool when another Green Lantern shows up and he thinks it's Hal. And it turns out to be himself. And this
Himself.
really weird Zen Buddha-ish. I mean, there's like 10 or 11 arms and all these different heads with a third eye. It was very Despero looking.
It'd be a cool looking wallpaper though.
Yeah, it's cool. And then there's eyes in the hands, and it's interesting. Again, don't know what it is. And it's interesting. This version of Sinestro doesn't know who Hal is.
The new DC.
It's interesting. I mean, it's almost like this is a version of Sinestro before Abin Sur has died. So we're getting this is almost like this is your life Sinestro. But
this is it's DC now, man.
Yeah,
it's his time to shine.
And the art by Mario Facillo. Again, I may have slaughtered the name. I mean, it was hit or miss for me, but all in all, I liked it.
It was good. I want some more. I mean, the thing of it is, like a lot of times with these shortened versions, is they only give you little tidbits. They don't give you a lot of context, if any. Number one, and then number two, they're just so small that you're like, okay, well, I enjoy it, but I want more, to where I not just enjoy it, I just want to know what's taking place while I enjoy it.
Yeah. It felt like, Segura's really trying to cram a lot of story into the pages he's got. So some things are a little rushed. But I think this was the setup for the main story is going to be in the next part. I think the worst part about getting this book early was we have a longer wait for the second part.
I know.
I enjoyed this issue. Does it hurt the overall series? I don't think so, other than in the minds of people that may not pick this up thinking it's not connected in any way, shape, or form. I think that Hal and Sinestro, that the ones that come out of this story, are going to be impacted, and it's going to alter the course of the main book, ever so slightly, at least.
And the main book picks up in September, right?
Yep. So in August, we'll have part 2 of Night Terrors, and then we'll jump right into the next issue. And it seemed to me that the September issue has Sinestro on the cover. So again, I think though these two characters are going to be on a collision course. I'm really excited for the October solicitations, because the September book has the last part of Philip Kennedy Johnson's John Stewart story. So is going into October, is the book going to be all Hal, or are we going to get another backup?
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to announce something to that effect,
I'm kind of expecting that we'll get announcements. We're recording this on the 19th of July. I'm expecting that San Diego Comic-Con and Friday, which is usually when the announcements happen, that's when we're going to find out about the October books.
Well, that would make sense. Just because Comic-Con's over, right?
Yep. So that's what I expect to see. So why don't you and I take a little pause, and we've got some listener feedback to do.
All
right. We'll be right back.
This is Giancarlo Volpe, producer of Green Lantern, the animated series, and you're listening to the podcast of OA.
The first piece of listener feedback is from Mile Beach 604, who has some general comments about the show. Commencing playback in 3, 2, 1.
Awesome show. I love the video format. I'm starting to look forward to seeing the different shirts Myron is going to wear. Great stuff, guys. Keep up the great work.
Hey, Mal Beach, thanks so much for reaching out. Glad you're liking the video format and commenting on the shirts. My wife is, every time I've bought a shirt, she's like, well, when are you going to wear that? And, you've got all these Green Lantern shirts. I'm like, well, now I have a reason, because every episode I can try wearing a different shirt. And Phil, my friend, you're rocking a new Green Lantern shirt too, which looks really, really good. Where'd you get that one at?
This one I got from Six Flags.
Six Flags, cool.
Yeah, I got Six Flags in St. Louis. So
when I went to Six Flags in New Jersey back when the Green Lantern roller coaster started, they didn't have anything to go with it. You would think you launched a new roller coaster themed around Green Lantern, you'd have some Green Lanterns merch. There was nothing.
Well, they got like art. The one out here in St. Louis has a whole actually, I'll send you a picture of it. Me and my wife standing in front of it. It's a Justice League. It's a Hall of Justice. And of course, the inside of it's a ride. It's a thing you ride through, and you have to shoot lasers, shoot guns, or shoot these lasers.
Gotcha.
And And then they got a whole plaza out there, and that's Mr. Freeze is out there, the ride. And then they got this really cool shop, but it was closed when I went there that day. Luckily, I found this in this shop off to the side. So they had some pretty cool Green Lantern stuff there.
Cool. The one in New Jersey, there was 2 Green Lantern roller coasters. There was one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. The East Coast one was much better than the West Coast one from what I've seen. But you actually go down in the roller coaster and you fly through a big construct of parallax.
Oh, that's
which is
neat.
cool. And the line that you go to as you're waiting to queue up for the ride has big boards up with Green Lantern lore on it. And then
That's
there's Hal's jet there. There's a giant power battery out in front of the roller coaster. The ride area looks like Ferris Air. So it's really cool.
That's really neat.
Really cool.
We're going to go up and ride the Superman one up in Gurney. That's north of us, up by Chicago.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Mile, I appreciate it. I'm glad you're liking the video format because it's a little more work, but I'm enjoying it, and I think it's better content. So
And don't let him fool you. It's just going to get more excuses to buy more.
this is I have to buy more shirts for the show. I mean, it's I got to do it for the fans. I got to do it for the listeners.
You're doing it for the support, man.
I only have 2 Green Lantern hats. I'm gonna have to expand my hat wardrobe. I don't know.
I love it. I think you should keep with it. Get as many as you can.
All right. Why don't we go ahead and get the next piece of listener feedback?
The second comment is from Warlion_2Nas163, who has some feedback about the relationship between Green Lantern Hal Jordan and Carol Ferris. Beginning transmission in 3, 2, 1.
I don't think that the ring is the problem with Hal and Carol's relationship, but their immaturity. In Flashpoint he didn't have the ring, still he wasn't married to Carol, and Flash made an inside joke about it to Thomas Wayne, who of course didn't get it. The Kilowog bit makes sense. It also reminds me of what Adam said about Hal trying to get back with Carol. He said, is that what Hal wants or what he thinks he wants? Interpreting this when thinking about the death of Kilowog theory, it implies that at the moment Hal isn't needing Carol as his lover like he thinks he does, but he needs her as the only person he opens up to about his feelings, vulnerabilities, and all of the things he doesn't allow people to see.
All right, War Lion. So he brings up the points that we talked about. More importantly, the one that you've talked about with the Kilowog theory. I guess we can call it the Kilowog theory now.
The Kilowog theory, yeah.
Right.
The Kildawog theory.
Kildawog theory. So looks like War Lion kind of agrees with you there, especially with the statement that Adams had made about the interpretation.
Yeah.
But that's a legible outcome for this, especially given the theme of what Hal's going through and given where he's at. It kind of tracks.
Yeah.
But
I like how Warlion puts it, that Hal's not necessarily looking for a romance. He just doesn't realize it.
right. Sure.
I totally buy into that whole thing. But we'll see. We're gonna look really. Chad and I are both gonna look really stupid if this isn't what happened. But this is the fun part about being a fan, is being able to postulate about things, and I don't know. To me, that's the added value of a book, when you can spend energy thinking about the book in between issues and come up with these kind of great theories and stuff.
It makes it fun, man. It's like, I kind of went like when I went in to watch The Flash, I kind of just went into it with a clear head. I was like, I just want to watch it for watch its sake. But what I ended up doing was comparing it to Flashpoint, the comic book.
Oh, to the comic, yeah.
You can't do that anyway, but you do, and that's the one thing you do when you're watching something like that. But anyway, it's all about interpretation. It's all about what you take from it and what you take into it too.
It's all about managing your expectations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go back to, I oftentimes think about the Green Lantern film, and people who don't know a lot about Green Lantern, some of them thought it was a great movie. So some really enjoyed it. But as a Green Lantern fan, you walk into it with, here's what I want to see. And so those expectations can really play with how well you enjoy something. And it's problematic sometimes when the movie maker or the filmmaker or TV producer's vision is so different from what some fans expect. And there's no way to balance it sometimes.
This gets me thinking about, it just gets me like the next Superman. It's like you go into it with the expectations, and I'm not going to go into it with expectations because I
No,
didn't do that with the
that's
Man of Steel. I didn't do any of that. And
m- yeah,
and first and foremost, everybody should know that it doesn't matter what Superman gets made. Christopher Reeve's not playing him, so you're never going
right,
to touch that caliber of talent. But
right,
even outside of that, leave your expectations at the door, man. You
yeah.
can't buy into what you think in your head. It just doesn't work now.
No, no. It's like, we were on the World at War Comics podcast. We were talking about how there was a time, at least when I was growing up, where Nicholas Hammond was Spider-Man, and that wasn't all that great. But you were so excited as a fan just to see the character on the screen that you
Mhm.
overlooked some of that stuff. And now we have this fan entitlement that we want it to be the way we want it to be, and that makes it difficult. And again, it's comes back to managing expectations. And I've come to a place, I've come to this realization where if I can walk into it with an open mind, and my only expectation is that the characters are recognizable to the characters that I know and love, as long as they're not an abomination, you have to look at it as somebody else's interpretation. I mean, Superman is a perfect example. The Superman of today is nothing like the Siegel and Schuster Superman.
Mm. And
He's
it never will be
completely
again.
no, it's completely changed. It's a completely different character. The origins are the same, and some of the powers are the same, but they've been expanded tenfold.
Yeah.
It's not the same character. So you almost have to walk into it saying, okay, this is not, we'll use Green Lantern. This is not an official Green Lantern how he is in the comics. This is an interpretation. It's based on the characters we know and love. And you hope that the essence is there, but there are no guarantees. But if you walk into it and you walk out and you enjoyed it, then that's a success.
Well, and a lot of it has to do with and what I've noticed over the course of the years is people expect it's almost like they expect the actor and the person who's playing the character to be the exact identical facsimile of exactly what's happening in the comic book. And while I understand there's a certain pull and a push for that, it doesn't always work. And I'll use Ezra Miller for an example. I'm just going to say it straight flat out. He's a crap Barry Allen, an absolute
Yeah.
crap Barry Allen. I've never seen Barry Allen in any comic book that I've ever read where he did that little thing where he was like trying to run around the
Yeah.
room and he lost his powers. It's like, okay, hold on. Barry Allen wouldn't do that. You're terrible. Time to move on.
Right.
But again, but there might be fans out there that watch it and do like Miller for the Barry Allen that he is. And then conversely, they go back and read the comic book and read Barry Allen and be like, oh, it's this Barry Allen's a little bit different. But to me, that just shows lazy writing. If you're
Right.
gonna invest yourself in the story of the Flash, you should invest yourself in Barry Allen's character.
Correct.
Same thing goes for Miller. And
Like
to me,
there's no version of Barry in the comics that's like the version in the movie.
yeah,
You know,
I didn't see it. He doesn't even look like him. I can get past that.
sure.
Aquaman's the same way. Jason Momoa looks nothing like the comic book, but I still love Jason Momoa's Aquaman.
Right. Do they get the essence of the character? And
Yeah,
I think
he
Barry
really
Allen is
does.
a great example where Ezra Miller can't really
Mm-mm.
portray the essence. And I don't think the writers necessarily got the essence of the character right.
I don't even think he's close to, he doesn't even fit Wally West's character. He doesn't fit
No,
a Flash mold for me, but
no, no.
hey,
And that was the problem. That's why I haven't even seen the movie yet, because I just don't buy Ezra Miller as the Flash. I didn't like him in Justice League film. And I was like, this isn't Barry to me. And when you are that far removed that fans don't recognize the character for the character that they love, you lose that whole fan support.
yeah, you
Now,
won't get it back.
regardless of what you think about the Marvel movies, and I think the Marvel movies are very much cut. Like you see one of them and you've seen all of them in a lot of ways, because they're very formulaic, but they get the essence of the characters right. So you can overlook some of that stuff
And
because
not
you're
only that,
seeing your character alive.
and the essence of the character crosses over with whatever else they're in. And
Yeah.
even when it's done by a totally different director and they still capture that essence of the character. DC doesn't do that, man. WB hasn't.
No.
Maybe they will moving forward, but who knows? Whatever.
Well, it's hard. I think that James Gunn has his work cut out for him because you've got a bad taste in people's mouths about the Flash, and because he's in charge now, people associate that with him, even though that movie was done before he even arrived. And
Yeah.
you've got Aquaman 2 coming up, and who knows what that's going to be like. And you've had the performance of Black Adam. It makes it harder, but
Mhm.
I just hope that it's great. I know we've kind of gotten off beat track, but
We didn't, but we're good. We're back
Yep.
on it.
so thank you all for comments that we're getting either on YouTube or emails or what have you, voice line. We'll take a quick break and show you how you can be a part of the show, and then we'll come back and wrap things up.
You can become a part of the show by leaving a message up to 1 minute long on our voicemail line. Call us at 406-POD-OA. That's 406-763-6362. You can also email us at podcast@blogofoa.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Fellow Owens, welcome back. Hey, quick shout out. Make sure you go check out World of War podcast. Awesome stuff. I think they're an independent too, because I think he writes his own, I think Kingsley is the name of the book that they're writing over there. Anyway, nice guy, Tommy. Reach out to him. He loves to chat. He's a good bloke.
Yeah, definitely. It was a good time. And Night Terrors, great book. If you didn't pick it up, it is worth reading. I think it's worth picking up. If you were concerned about, well, I'm not really into this whole event, you don't really have to know anything about the event other than this character is trying to get something and terrorize the heroes and cause them to relive their worst nightmares.
Right. And don't live your own nightmares.
No, not at all. So we'll have to figure out when we're going to record again. I feel bad that it looks like we're probably not going to get 2 episodes for July, but we'll make up for it down the road. Next time, I'm not sure whether we'll be doing Night Terrors book 2 or if we'll have that interview or what we're going to have. But all I know is I'm looking forward to talking about Green Lantern again.
Boom. That's all that matters.
That's right. That's right. So we'll be around soon. Until then, as always, keep your power ring charged, treat each other well, and make every day your brightest day. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for watching this Green Lantern video from the blog of OA. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find even more great Green Lantern videos, reviews, podcasts, and more at our main website, www.blogofoa.com. So until next time, keep your power ring charged and make every day your brightest day.